You are able to shimmy up that tree like a spider, and touch the tree. You find that every location you touch, when you pull your left hand away, it has turned white temporarily, and then it returns to a brown bark like you see in the rest of the tree. But you do eventually make it up to the top. The forest is white. It doesn't look like the lush green that you were seeing from the ground. And then you hear,
"Step away from it. There are far more important things than you in here. There's other forces in this forest."
she approaches you, and you see the illusion of spell information. You immediately begin to understand. As you complete your detect magic ritual, the shroud of mist that had been settled over the land has cleared up.
Looks like loose
It
things.
looks.
So,
It.
looks like loose things. Give
It's.
them hearts.
It's a one-eyed monster.
And as the last one dies, you feel the power of the hunter's mark equally dissipate from all four bodies. And you headed southeast, seeing traces of the Nothic's movements, leading you to a cave, which you decided to explore. Inside of this cave, as you proceeded through it, you found it led to a temple. You could read the script on the walls because it was celestial, and
That's how you know.
but you couldn't read what was on the box on the inside of the temple. You figured out how to open the box which had 17 figures that you could perceive, and one that appeared to be scratched out, contained a bunch of item holders that were empty and 3 that were not. You proceeded further in, discovering that this was a temple to the triad, Death, Flora, and Frostel, and you found a well that you were able to activate by putting weight on a couple of pressure plates. And that well was a well of death. You went through that and you were judged and found that you still had worth, or were worthy of forgiveness.
Yes,
And
I remember this.
the nature of the well of death is that it will take you to the location of your destiny. And so you came out into a temple of death in Limniposia. In Limniposia, you spoke to the priestess who was there when you got out of the temple, or of the well, sorry. But she also tried to answer some of your other questions that Fenton and Skarackington had. So Fenton had asked about his father, and she tried to trace the lifelines back to Death to see if he was still alive, but found that you were blocked from doing that. For Skarackington, she was examining your hand, and you found that she was unaffected, and she could see within that the fires of life, several of them, not just one.
Let's head to the west.
No, halt! Run! Move! Dark Goblin! And you can see at the edge of the light what looks kind of like a goblin. But yes, so you do recognize this as a Ravager. Don't stand near them. Skarackington. So it grapples you, and you hear it let out a shriek. It exploded, and it dealt 6 damage.
Take us to your home.
Home here, follow.
There's some writing down and a suspicious amount of blood.
Dark Goblin, make that.
You come with family.
As you are looking at this, you recognize that it is related to summoning magic. So you emerge out of the caves,
Oh, that's
eventually following that path,
That's nice.
and into a marshland that the spells cast had ruined the land and made it toxic and unable to sustain life.
Thanks for watching, nerds.
You, as you're walking into the town across one of the bridges, you see a familiar looking face sitting on the bridge, her feet dangling over the water. But she looks slightly different, slightly older than you remembered. You've made yourself quite difficult to track. I like to keep track of where my agents are.
So where have you been?
I have many places to be. You aren't the only agents I've dispatched.
And what are your plans for us?
Well, for the moment, all you need to know is south of here, there's an item that you will retrieve. There
Oh,
is
so
a
you're-
stone. It's much like, and she flicks the earring that she's wearing.
How do you know I have?
And as you say that, she is suddenly standing right behind you and says, I know many things about you. Where you are, where you were, and where you will be.
How many adventurers have you dispatched?
Sandra.
He lives. What is your intention with these gems?
You don't need to know that. Good and evil don't matter to me. I seek my own means and I seek my own ends, and those who are assisting me shall benefit from it.
Well then, explain it to us.
And now she is standing, leaning against the side of the bridge across from each of you. She begins to tell you a little bit about the world, areas of the world that don't seem exactly as you would know them. When last I was here, there was not a building.
What will you give unto us in return for the gemstone? What happens next?
All you need to know is those who acted against me will perish. She pushes off the bridge and drops down into the water. And as she drops into the surface of the water remains undisturbed as she sinks below, leaving you standing in the rain.
Do you think that she can be trusted?
Okay, I think we go south and we collect the gem for ourselves. She'll find us anyway, and then we can see the real her.
As you open the door, this
Ugh.
guy turns and looks at you. As you attempt to cast it, he mutters a few words and the spell fizzles with a counter spell.